White media pundits had a nerve to say, you became a multi-million-dollar athlete. You got a contract with Nike. That ain't got nothing to do with no white grandparents. That's black talent, black genetics, black melanin, black DNA. Or are you going to sit here and tell me Colin Kaepernick made it to the NFL because he was raised by two white people? You know how many black men make it to the NFL who wasn't raised by nobody, grew up in a foster home, group home, or on the street? Him being raised by two white people ain't got a damn thing to do with the talent in his body.
Colin Kaepernick is talking about his struggles growing up with white adoptive parents. During an interview with CBS News, the former San Francisco 49ers quarterback, who is biracial and identifies as black, said he sometimes experienced pushback from his adoptive parents, Rick and Teresa.
I know my parents love me, but there were still very problematic things that I went through.
Kaepernick went on to recall one specific time when he wanted to get cornrows. His mom pushed back, calling the hairstyle unprofessional and saying he would look like a little thug. Now he's getting real about why it's important to him to be honest about his experience.
I think it was important to show that, no, this can happen in your own home, and how we move forward collectively while addressing the racism that is being perpetuated.
Peace and Pan-Africanism, peace and Pan-Africanism. This is your big brother King Kong Consciousness. I got to get into this Colin Kaepernick thing. This man does an interview and says he know his white parents loved him and they took care of him and they did a lot for him and he's grateful for them. He didn't dismiss them. And he wasn't disrespectful, nor did he negate what they did for him. But because he made it clear that despite all that, they were still white racists, all these white people are trying to throw Colin Kaepernick under the bus for telling the truth. The same thing they tried to do when he took a knee to protest racial injustice during 2016. See, the problem here is white people think that when they do something good for a black person, that automatically obligates the black person to never expose their racism. I'm going to say it again. White people believe that whenever they do something positive for a black person, they own you. See, what they're really getting at here is that his white mother and father, adoptive parents, were his slave masters. They were his beneficiary. They were the slave master. And how dare you ridicule the people who put food in your mouth or clothes on your back or a roof over your head. But they were racist. But white people would dare say, so what they were racist? So what? You a Negro. You a Negro. So what they were racist? You were homeless. So what they were racist? You were homeless. And because Colin Kaepernick told the truth that the white people who raised them were still racist, he talked about how his white mother said he looked like a thug when he got cornrows. He looked like a thug when he got cornrows. Did Bo Derek look like she was a thug when she had cornrows? Did the white model Bo Derek look like a thug when she had cornrows? Did Bo Derek look like a thug when she had cornrows? Because she had cornrows before Colin Kaepernick did. Bo Derek had cornrows before Colin Kaepernick did. Did she look like a thug? See that? She basically called that man a little N-word. Y'all know how this go. Just because they took a black kid into their house, they're not racist. Didn't the slave master take black kids into his house? Didn't the slave master sleep with black women? Did it change anything in the power dynamic or relationship between the slave master and the slave? Just because the slave master lets you sleep in his house don't mean he thinks you are equal with him. And so now Colin Kaepernick is a bad person because he dared tell the truth that the same white people who raised them were also racist. But look at the hypocrisy. Didn't Barack Obama say the same thing about his white parents? And they were his biological maternal grandparents. They were his biological maternal grandparents. They were his biological maternal grandparents. These two white people were not Colin Kaepernick's biological anything. They were adoptive parents. So if Barack Obama had to deal with racism from his biological white grandparents, if Barack Obama had to deal with racism from his biological white grandparents, how the hell are you going to tell Colin Kaepernick that he didn't experience racism from two white people to whom he was not biologically related? You know what's really going on? They still mad he took a knee. See, what's really going on is they still mad Colin Kaepernick took a knee because for most of American history, the mixed race African children usually identify with the power structure. For most of American history, the mixed race African children usually identify with the white power structure. Colin Kaepernick pulled a 360 on them devils. Colin Kaepernick pulled a 360 on them devils. Colin Kaepernick pulled a 360 on them devils. And because he ain't shucking and jiving and hiding the racism like so many mixed race Africans do, they pissed off at him. And then they got a nerve to say, Lord have mercy. These damn white media pundits had a nerve to say, you became a multi-million-dollar athlete. You got a contract with Nike. That ain't got nothing to do with no white grandparents. That's black talent, black genetics, black melanin, black DNA. Or are you going to sit here and tell me Colin Kaepernick made it to the NFL because he was raised by two white people? You know how many black men make it to the NFL who wasn't raised by nobody, grew up in a foster home, group home, or on the street? Him being raised by two white people ain't got a damn thing to do with the talent in his body. The talent in his body comes from his African ancestors. The talent in his body comes from his melanin. The talent in his body comes from his DNA. The talent in his body comes from Africa. These damn white people trying to argue. These damn white people trying to argue that Colin Kaepernick's talent is coming from the fact he was raised by two white folks. One of them even had a nerve to say he not grateful. The man said he was grateful. But the problem with white people is your white privilege and your white narcissism dictates that your victims never hold you accountable for your behavior. Let me say it one more time. White narcissism and white privilege and white supremacy, one of the benefits of racism, one of the privileges of white people, you never have to be held accountable for your racism, and especially not from your victims. They pissed off at Colin Kaepernick because he took that knee, and they pissed off at Colin Kaepernick because he had the nerve to expose the same white people who raised them. We got white mothers out here calling their black biological sons the N-word. We got white mothers out here. We got snow bunnies calling the black boys they gave birth to the N-word. We got snow bunnies calling the black daughters they gave birth to the N-word. We got white men calling their black children who they procreated the N-word. And you mean to tell me that a white person can call their own black biological child the N-word? A white person can call their own black biological child the N-word, but Colin Kaepernick's grandparents could not be racist. Get the hell out of here. This is the same argument that white people always use to try to distract from their racism. I'm married to a black man. I'm married to a black woman. I have a black best friend. I have a black close friend. I have a black neighbor. I'm in business with black people. I went to a black high school. I listened to gangster rap. I had sex with a black girl. That has nothing to do with the way you think. It has nothing to do with the way you feel. It has nothing to do with the way you behave. And most of all, it has nothing to do with the white privileges that you benefit from. Did you ever try to share your white privileges with your black husband? Did you ever try to share your white privileges with your black wife? Did you ever try to share your white privileges with your black girlfriend? Did you ever try to share your white privileges with your black football teammates? Did you ever try to share your white privilege with your black basketball teammates? Did any of you white folks who love running around talking about how you slept with white people, slept with black people, married black people, procreated children with black people, lived with black people, talked with black people, played with white people, black people, but you never tell us how you help them overcome systemic oppression? You never tell us how you help them benefit from any of the white privileges that you benefited from. Get the hell out of here. Colin Kaepernick said he grew up in a white home in a white community. A white home in a white community. You all know that white community was racist as hell. His parents was racist, and all the other white people in that community he lived in was racist. Y'all have often heard me say that mixed race Africans sometimes understand racism better. Because when they go home, they don't get a break from racism. They get that raw, unadulterated racism. Barack Obama and Colin Kaepernick, they heard things white people say about black people you and I would never hear. Barack Obama and Colin Kaepernick, they heard their white grandparents and parents say things about black people you and I would never hear. They get the real racism. They get the raw racism. And that's why mixed race Africans, the ones who are conscious like Colin Kaepernick, to hell with Barack Obama. But the ones like Colin Kaepernick, they are an asset to the struggle because they can really help politically confused black people really understand what white people think about them. Colin Kaepernick could probably help politically uneducated black people understand racism more than I can because he lived with white people. He lived in their house. So a lot of black people wouldn't believe me because I didn't grow up in a house with white people, but they would believe Colin Kaepernick because he grew up in a house full of white people. This ain't nothing but the snow bunny argument. This ain't nothing but the snow bunny argument. This isn't nothing but the snow bunny argument. I have a black husband, so I can't be racist. I have a black wife. I can't be racist. I have black friends. I can't be racist. We adopted a black boy. Yeah, you can adopt the dog. You can adopt the cat. You can adopt the snake. You can adopt the monkey. You can adopt some fish. You can adopt the gerbil. You can adopt a whole lot of things. Just because you adopted a black boy does not mean you're not racist. They had reasons for why they did that, and those reasons wasn't all benevolent. Why didn't they get a white boy? Why didn't they adopt a white boy? They were racist like everybody else. Stop playing games. And then people talk about, well, white people feel fragile. They feel fragile that Colin Kaepernick would dare expose his white foster parents, his white adoptive parents, by letting the world know that they were racist. We so fragile. White people ain't fragile. Ain't a damn thing fragile about white people. If white people are so fragile, you damn white fragility proponents. If white people are so fragile, you damn white fragility proponents. If white people are so fragile, you damn white fragility proponents. Why wasn't they that fragile when they came to Africa and stole our ancestors? If you so fragile, how did you come to North America and commit wholesale genocide on the entire population of Native Americans? If you so fragile, how your police going around killing black people like it's going out of style? If you so fragile, why hasn't your fragility ever motivated you towards the completion of a complete redistribution of wealth and power in this country and in this world, so the lesser have-nots of the planet can enjoy some of the comfort and privilege of white people? If you're so fragile, why is there such thing as white supremacy? If you're so fragile, why do white people control most of the resources of this earth? If you're so fragile, how did you enslave and colonize so much of the black world? Ain't nothing fragile about you. The only thing fragile about you is your unwillingness to take accountability for what you do to black people. The only thing fragile about white people is your unwillingness to take accountability for what you have done and what you continue to do to black people. The only thing fragile about white people, you white fragility proponents, is they don't want to be held accountable for what they've done and what they continue to do for black people. Get the hell out of my face with this white fragility. They always want to play victim when they get their hand caught in the cookie jar. White people always want to play victim when they get their hand caught in the cookie jar. White people always want to play victim when they get their hand caught in the cookie jar. Thank you, Colin Kaepernick, for telling the truth. Thank you, Colin Kaepernick, for telling the truth. Because in Colin Kaepernick telling the truth, he just gave energy to every mixed race African child to expose the racism of their white parents. That's right. That's right. Colin Kaepernick just opened up a can of worms. Now you're going to have mixed race black boys talking about how their mother called them the N-word. You're going to have mixed race black girls talking about how their white father said, why your nose got to be so big and your hips so wide and your skin so dark. That's right, mixed race African family. Expose them hypocrites. That's right, mixed race African family. Expose them devils. That's right, mixed race African family. Tell the truth and shame the devil. Yeah, that's your mother. She might got some love for you, but she's still a racist. That's your father. He might got some love for you, but he's still a racist. Let us be clear. All white people are racist. Every last one of them. I don't care if they married to a black. I don't care if they raising black kids. I don't care if they adopted black kids. I don't care if they fostered black children. All Europeans on the planet Earth are racist, whether they Dutch, whether they British, whether they German, whether they Greek, whether they Irish, whether they Italian, whether they Jewish, whether they Anglo-Saxon. All white people are racist. They would have never taken over the world without racism. They would never maintain their control without racism. They would never have their privilege without racism. There is no such thing as a white person who's not racist. The Republicans are racist. The Democrats are racist. The rich whites are racist. The poor whites are racist. The liberals are racist. The conservatives are racist. They are all racist. I didn't say that they were all bigots. Not all white people wish the extermination of black people, but every white person on the face of the earth is unequivocally committed to white people controlling the resources, the wealth, and the opportunities of the planet Earth, of all the continents, of all the countries, of all the states, of all the regions, of all the cities, of all the towns, of all the neighborhoods. There's not a white person on the planet who is not used to the privilege that they get as a result of the oppression that black people suffer. There's not a white person on earth, not your snow bunny girlfriend, not your snow bunny baby mama. There's not a white woman or a white man. I don't care if you're sleeping with them, sucking them, kissing them, making babies with them, working with them. There's not a white person on earth who does not enjoy and want to continue the unfair, lopsided, disproportionate, racist, inequitable, and biased control over resources, opportunities, and privileges that they can only enjoy at the expense of black oppression. That includes Colin Kaepernick's foster parents, adoptive parents. That includes Barack Obama's grandparents. That includes every white person. I'm trying to understand where white people get this narrative that when I help a black person, I'm no longer racist. Have you ever studied the abolitionist movement? The movement to end slavery in America? If you want to do some real good reading, I want you to read some of the letters of William Lloyd Garrison, founder of the American Anti-Slavery Society. I want you to read the letters of Susan B. Anthony and Lucretia Mott. I want you to read the letters of all these white people who fought to get black people out of slavery, but at the same time considered black people to be beneath them. At the same time considered black people to be under them. At the same time were not interested in black people being treated as equal One of the problems Harriet Tubman, Queen Mother Ancestor Harriet Tubman, and Queen Mother Ancestor Sojourner Truth, and later on, Queen Mother Ancestor Ida B. Wells, one of the problems they had with these white abolitionists and later on women suffrage movement leaders was the fact that they claimed to be about freeing black people, but no black women could join the movement. I don't think y'all heard what I just said. Racist white women who were fighting to end slavery didn't let Harriet Tubman join the Women's Anti-Slavery Society, didn't let Sojourner Truth join the Women's Anti-Slavery Society. Oh yes, oh yes. Later on, didn't want Ida B. Wells in the women's suffrage movement, because even though we fighting to make y'all free, we are not fighting to make y'all equal. Them fighting to end slavery is no different than fighting to save some dogs. It ain't no different than fighting to save some cats. It ain't no different than fighting to save some zebras. When Frederick Douglass went to William Lloyd Garrison after slavery ended in 1865, Cousin Freddie went to William Lloyd Garrison. Cousin Freddie went to William Lloyd Garrison. Cousin Freddie went to William Lloyd Garrison. And the great and honorable Frederick Douglass said, William Lloyd Garrison, you cannot dismember the American Anti-Slavery Society because black people are still not free. And William Lloyd Garrison told Frederick Douglass in no uncertain terms, I fought to end slavery. I did not fight to make black people free. And what happened when Frederick Douglass separated from William Lloyd Garrison? Because William Lloyd Garrison wanted to do it to Frederick Douglass the same thing the white media is trying to do to Colin Kaepernick. I said William Lloyd Garrison tried to do to Frederick Douglass the same thing the white media is trying to do to Colin Kaepernick. I said William Lloyd Garrison in the 1840s tried to do to Frederick Douglass the same thing that the white media is trying to do to Colin Kaepernick, paternalize him. Paternalize him, parentify these white folks above him. William Lloyd Garrison told Frederick Douglass, I don't want you articulating the political position of abolitionism. We just want you to talk about how life was as a little slave boy. Frederick Douglass, don't articulate no fight for abolition. We don't want you to articulate the fight to end slavery. We just want you to talk about what it was like growing up with no drawers on and no shoes on your feet and no socks and sleeping next to the hogs and sleeping on the dirt floor. We just want you to tell them what it was like to be a slave boy. We don't want you using your intelligence to analyze the situation and come up with a program to dismantle slavery. And Frederick Douglass basically said, in no uncertain terms, and I'm paraphrasing, he basically said, I didn't leave one form of slavery for another. I didn't leave one form of slavery for another. I didn't leave one form of slavery for another. And William Lloyd Garrison tried to destroy Frederick Douglass. That white man went so far to even publish all sorts of incendiary allegations and slanderous comments about Frederick Douglass in his newspaper. Why? Because Frederick Douglass would not let him paternalize him. He would not let him parentify him. And that's exactly what these devils in the media is trying to do with Colin Kaepernick, because these white folks gave him a meal and some clothes. Because they gave him a meal and some clothes and raised him up, he's not allowed to expose their racism. Frederick Douglass wasn't supposed to expose William Lloyd Garrison's racism. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Even the white people who risked their life to end slavery didn't believe black people were equal to them. They still harbored slanderous and scandalous and all sorts of stereotypes about black people. What are you talking about? So you come into the black community and feed some homeless people. You not racist? You stand up and protest and march against police brutality. You not racist? You teach in a black public school. So you not racist? So any white person who comes into the black community and do anything for a black person, they're automatically not racist. Get the hell out of here. Even the slave master was kind every once in a while. Even the slave master was kind every once in a while. Even the slave master was kind every once in a while. Colin Kaepernick, you talk your talk. Colin Kaepernick, you speak your speech. Colin Kaepernick, tell the truth, shame the devil. You ain't disrespect your white adoptive parents. You told the truth. They just as racist as any other white person walking this earth. You saw it, you felt it, you heard it, and you know it. Don't let these white people try to make you feel bad for telling the truth because they gave you a meal, because they put some clothes on your back. Black people built this damn country with no meal, no clothes on our back, from sunrise to sunset, and we ain't get nothing for making this country. But you mean to tell me Colin Kaepernick owed two white folks his whole life? His whole life? Because they took him in? When black people built this country for 250 years and ain't got a penny yet? So y'all don't owe us nothing, but Colin Kaepernick owe those white people his whole life. Get the hell out of here. And then y'all got a nerve to say, would he be in the NFL, as if white people are responsible for black athletic ability? Since when did white people become responsible for black athletic ability? You must be out of your minds. That is Africa in that man's body. That is his ancestors in that man's body. That is melanin in that man's body. And no white person, including Colin Kaepernick's adoptive parents, have any right to claim Colin Kaepernick's natural, God-given African ancestral talent as their own. This is the Prince of Pan-Africanism, King Kong Consciousness, signing out. Hit the Cash App, FDMG, Black Queens forever, Snow Bunnies never.